Have you ever wondered what secrets are lurking in your family tree? Those skeletons hiding in the closet that no one talks about at family reunions? We're about to dive deep into the dark side of ancestry. It's more than just finding out what percentage of Irish you are or if your great-great-grandmother really a Cherokee princess. Today, we delve into the dark side of our genetic blueprints. Join me as we uncover 3 chilling stories where Ancestry DNA tests revealed more than just ethnic backgrounds. Our first story takes us to a quaint little town in the heartland of America. Sarah, a young woman in her late 20s, always felt a strange disconnect with her family, like a puzzle piece that never quite fit. Growing up, she had always been curious about her family history, especially since her parents were both only children. Where'd it come from? She thought. So she did what any curious millennial would do. She ordered one of those trendy DNA kits. What started as a fun little exploration into her heritage quickly spiraled into a chilling mystery. Weeks later, the results arrived. Sarah eagerly scrolled through the pages, her heart pounding with anticipation. At first, everything seemed normal, a mix of European ancestry, no big surprises. But then, her eyes caught something strange, a name listed under close relatives that she didn't recognize. It was a half-sibling, a brother, someone she had never even heard of. Her mind raced. How could this be? She immediately confronted her parents, but their reactions were more terrifying than the results themselves. They were evasive, nervous, their faces pale and drawn. After what felt like an eternity of silence, her mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. "We were going to tell you, someday." They confessed that before Sarah was born, they had given up a child for adoption. A secret they had kept buried for decades, terrified of the judgment they might face. Sarah was floored. All those years of feeling like an outsider, and now she knew why. But this revelation was just the tip of the iceberg. Driven by a thirst for answers and a longing to connect with this newfound brother, Sarah embarked on a quest to find him. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and with each passing day, the mystery only deepened. She unearthed old letters, faded photographs, and whispered rumors from distant relatives, each clue adding a new layer of intrigue and unease to her family's hidden past. The deeper she delved, the more she realized that her parents weren't telling her everything. Their initial hesitation transformed into outright fear, their eyes pleading with her to let it go. But Sarah couldn't stop. She was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Finally, after months of relentless searching, she found him, David. He lived just a few states away, completely unaware of his true parentage or the existence of his sister. Their reunion was a bittersweet symphony of joy and sorrow, relief and disbelief. But as they began piecing together the fragments of their shared history, a chilling truth emerged. The circumstances surrounding David's adoption were shrouded in secrecy, and a palpable sense of danger lingered in the air. They discovered that their parents had been involved with a shadowy organization, one that seemed to have a vested interest in keeping their family's secrets buried. As they dug deeper, they found themselves caught in a web of lies, deceit, and threats. The past, like a malevolent spirit, refused to remain dormant, its icy fingers reaching out from the shadows to claim them both. Our next story takes us across the pond to the rolling hills of England, where a simple DNA test unearthed a legacy of darkness that had plagued a family for generations. William, a retired history professor, had always been fascinated by genealogy, spending countless hours poring over dusty records and crumbling family trees. When at-home DNA tests became available, he was eager to see what secrets his genes might reveal. He expected to find connections to distant cousins or perhaps a long-lost branch of the family tree. What he didn't expect to find was a link to a notorious unsolved murder that had shaken the nation decades earlier. As he delved deeper into the DNA results, one name kept appearing. A distant relative he had never heard of, a man named Edward, who had lived in the same small village as William's ancestors back in the 19th century. Intrigued, William began researching Edward's life, only to uncover a chilling truth. Edward had been the prime suspect in the brutal murder of a young woman, her body found dumped in the river that snaked through their village. Newspapers from the time painted a grim picture of the crime, describing the fear that had gripped the community and the frantic search for the killer. Edward, a brooding and solitary figure, had become the target of suspicion, but despite compelling circumstantial evidence, he was never officially charged. The case went cold, fading into local legend, but the stain of the unsolved murder lingered, casting a long shadow over the village and its inhabitants. William was both horrified and captivated by this gruesome family history. Could he be related to a cold-blooded killer? He grappled with the unsettling possibility that the blood of a murderer flowed through his veins. Driven by a morbid curiosity and a desire to clear his family's name, William embarked on a quest for the truth. He visited the village, poring through local archives, interviewing elderly residents who still remembered the whispers and rumors from their childhoods. He tracked down distant relatives, piecing together fragmented memories and long-forgotten accounts. The more he learned, the more convinced he became of Edward's innocence. The evidence, he realized, was circumstantial at best, fueled by fear and prejudice against an outsider. William's quest for justice became a dangerous game of cat and mouse, as he found himself facing threats and intimidation from those determined to keep the truth buried. The past, it seemed, was not so easily forgotten, and some secrets once unearthed had the power to destroy the present. Our final story takes us on a chilling journey into the heart of the unknown, where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blur. Maria, a successful artist living in bustling New York City, decided to take a DNA test on a whim, hoping to uncover some interesting tidbits about her heritage to weave into her art. She had always been drawn to the mystical, the unexplained, and she saw her ancestry as a tapestry of stories waiting to be told. But what she found was a thread so dark and twisted that it threatened to unravel the very fabric of her identity. From the moment she received the results, something felt off. Unlike the other stories, there were no surprise relatives, no long-lost siblings. Instead, there was something far more unsettling. A large chunk of her DNA was unidentifiable. It didn't match any known ethnicities or populations in the database. It was as if a piece of her genetic code was missing, replaced with something alien, something unknown. At first, she dismissed it as an error, a glitch in the system, but as she delved deeper, she discovered that she wasn't alone. Online forums were filled with whispers of similar experiences, people finding inexplicable gaps in their DNA, sections that seemed to defy explanation. Maria couldn't shake off the unease that had settled over her. She began experiencing vivid nightmares, strange symbols appearing in her dreams, and a constant feeling of being watched, of being studied. Her once vibrant artwork took on a darker, more disturbing tone, reflecting the growing terror that gnawed at her subconscious. She consulted with geneticists, experts in mythology and folklore, even paranormal investigators, but no one had an explanation for what she was experiencing. The more she learned, the more she realized that she had stumbled upon something ancient and terrifying, something that lay beyond the realm of human understanding. The missing pieces of her DNA, she began to suspect, were not simply gaps, but placeholders for something else. Something that had been intentionally erased, or perhaps something that had never been human to begin with. As Maria descended deeper into the rabbit hole of her own ancestry, she uncovered ancient texts, forbidden rituals, and whispered legends of beings from beyond the stars who had visited Earth in the distant past, leaving behind their genetic fingerprints on the human race. The line between reality and delusion blurred as the impossible seeped into her world, twisting her perception, leaving her questioning her own sanity. She was no longer in control, a puppet dancing on strings controlled by an unseen force. These stories remind us that sometimes digging into our past can reveal more than we bargained for. While Ancestry DNA tests can be a fun and interesting way to learn about our heritage, they can also unearth unsettling truths, hidden chapters in our family history that might be better left buried. Thank you for joining me on this eerie journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more dark tales.